This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. I'm not sure where today's show is going to go. I'm just going to say that right off the top because we're going to take a deep dive into the world of AAA bass fishing. Like we've talked about the Opens, we've talked about how there's 170 some that are already registered and the divisions are full. We've had Marty Stone talking about how the invitationals are now a stepping stone. We're seeing guys from the NPFL in David Gasson and John Sokup, and I'm forgetting the dude who just qualified at Hartwell, who's like just as good, if not better, from any both of those guys. Anyway, making that jump there. But we're seeing a lot of the success stories, and we're gonna go grinding. We're gonna be like we're gonna kind of take a deep dive into what it actually takes. And I remember for like 3 or 4 years, Jeffries. And it drove me nuts when I sat right over there in the co-host seat and I thought he was just doing it to get a rise. And now part of me thinks that there might be more to it. Is he's like, well, how much does luck have into it? Was that a lucky bite? Is that a lucky fish? What about that top 10? Was it? And I was like, oh, there's zero luck. But I think there might be a point, and maybe not, maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but where you get down to the bottleneck, where you get close enough and you have to have a break. You have to have a break that gets you through, like if you're like trying to go up the hourglass, like you get up to where it bottlenecks and you're trying to get up into the top echelon, but you have to have something that happens that allows you to pop through. And I mean, maybe it's just because it's winter in the off season. I have a lot of time to think, but I'm starting to wonder, is that break that you need to get through there? Is that skill? Is that something that you've done in the past? Is that like paying your dues? Or maybe is there an element of luck involved to get to the top of that? So it'll be very interesting. Anyway, guy I have a ton of respect for. I don't think he's been on BTL before. Joel, have you been on BTL before? No, Joel has not been on BTL. It is Joel Willert, originally from Wisconsin, lives in Minnesota now, and dude, I got a sheet full of facts. You know how much I like stats. I like to look at the intangibles, the statistics, and for the last better part of a decade, Joel has been all over the fishing industry. So we're going to talk to Joel Willert in a second. I do want to remind, it is Best on Tour giveaway week here on BTL. So like I said, they are back as a title sponsor for the Open EQs for a third year. So I will be running a Best on Tour Bass Cat in 2023. But if you are not signed up for this weekly newsletter, and I'm going to do this every show this week because it runs through this week primarily, go to bestontour.net, register, just name and email once a week, direct to your inbox. Top 10 things that are going on in the industry. A lot of people in the industry, including myself, contribute that. There's no reason why you shouldn't do that. It's a cool deal. And if you're a new subscriber, you subscribe bestontour.net. They have a list of the new subscribers. You are entered to win hats, shirts, T-shirts, all sorts of stuff. All right, let's bring in today's guest, none other than Joel Willert. What's up, dude? Thanks for jumping on BTL.
Thanks for having me, man. I excited to be here, and I'm a longtime listener, and I always thought I can't wait to have my first time on BTL, because that means I probably did something pretty awesome in the fishing industry. Maybe win an Open or go catch a 30-pound bag or do something pretty cool. But Either way, excited to be here. And
We have done something pretty cool. You have won like multiple opens. You're over like $200,000 in earnings. Like you've won $250,000 in the past 5 years bass fishing. I'd say that's pretty impressive.
yeah, it's definitely a good run. A lot of that was from the back of the boat and the co-angler side when I was starting out. But either way, it's been a fun ride.
All right, you're in Minnesota now, originally from Wisconsin.
Yep, Minnesota here now, and it's starting to lock up here, the lakes, and we're supposed to get 5 to 8 inches of snow today. So,
Do you do the ice fishing thing? Like I'm buddies with Bartuzek and the Crappie Chronicles guys, and I watch it, and it's like, oh, early ice, and then you're like, see the thing on Red Lake where it's like 150 guys stranded on Red Lake walleye fishing, and they have to like put a bridge out to get them across, or do you stay off the hard water?
yeah, I mean, I'll go every once in a while. I wouldn't call myself a big ice fisherman. Excuse me, I do enjoy it. I got some buddies that work landscaping, that kind of stuff, that landscape all summer, and then they get the winters off, so they just ice fish all winter, and they find the fish, and they call me up and say, hey, come jump in the warm ice shack and come catch some fish. So that's about the extent of my ice fishing right now.
If you're good at open water fishing, are you good at ice fishing and vice versa, or is it like a fly fishing deal where you can really suck at one and be good at the other?
I mean, I think there's a lot of spots, like I know lakes that you can go to that definitely have different kinds of structure that the fish will winter on. And with today's electronics, I mean, with the forward facing sonars out there, I mean, you're just drilling holes and putting your forward facing sonar down there, looking where the schools of fish are, and then going to drill another hole on top of them and catching them. So it seems like it's getting a lot easier. I mean, like I said, I don't spend a lot of time on the ice, but from the few times I have been out there and with the guys I've gone, they have all the new electronics, and they make it pretty easy, it seems like.
Yeah, the one time I went, that was nuts. I learned how effective a flasher could be. Like, I've always seen it, so I've been in the boat with, like, Fritz at media events and stuff, and I thought it was just, like, a nostalgia thing, like a comfort blanket maybe for him. But then you get on the ice, and you're like, holy cow, like, once you know what you're looking at, a flasher is an incredibly effective tool for vertical presentations and knowing what's underneath you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, that's what I grew up using as a Vexilar, and it's definitely a big advantage. I mean, it's basically just no different than a 2D sonar. If you're fishing right over the top of those fish, you watch your bait go down and go right to them, hold it above them a little bit, and watch them come up and eat it.
And then the other thing that I noticed was it's ridiculous how aware the fish are of what's going on above the ice when you use the forward-facing sonar, because you can go right to where they are, and they somehow know through a foot of ice and snow what the heck's going on up there, and know that they need to stay just out of reach. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I'm sure all that noise up there, all the echoes, drilling a power auger through the ice is spooks them a little bit and whatever. I mean, I don't really know a whole lot about it, and haven't spent enough time in the last few years doing it, but I can just imagine how loud it is below the ice down in the water.
I swore I wouldn't do this again, but last Thursday I stopped by here. Listen to this. That is the sound of fruitcake flavored Mountain Dew.
Wow.
I got one for last week's show just to mess with Frank, and then I kind of it's got a little bit of a fruitcake Christmas spice flavor to it. All right. For those people who don't know who you are, they're listening to BTL, how would you describe yourself right now? Like, if you were to say, hey, like, Joel, nice to meet you. What do you do?
I'm just a guy that loves bass fishing and has, been making a run at it for a few years. And, it's really, really want to do what I've wanted to do. And what I want to do is just bass fish and be on the water at all times. And, I guess a little history about me, when I got out of high school, I joined the military right away. And, growing up, I always fished. I fished a few local tournaments growing up, little Thursday nighters back on the home lake and with some buddies and whatever else. And once I got out of high school, I joined the military and was in the military, and that, kind of took away from fishing for a while there. Did a couple seasons, overseas tours, and, I took a damper on fishing for a handful of years, and then kind of got back into it, and just kind of jumped into the national tournament scene. On the back of the boat, had some buddies that I was traveling with. My old travel partner, Greg Mansfield, he was fishing at the front of the boat, so I was able to travel with him a little bit and fish as a co-angler out the back, and had a bunch of success out of the back, and kind of set me up to financially and the confidence to move to the front. And then it's been doing it from the front, I guess, since 2019. I went full time from the front.
So your second open, so in 16 you fish as a co-angler in the you fished in 1 and 15, but in 16 you fish as a co-angler in the Northern Opens. Who'd you draw then? Was Greg fishing that too?
Yep.
Was that who you? Okay, so he was fishing as a boater. You jumped in as a co.
Right.
You were out of the military in what year?
So I did 3 years active, and then I joined the National Guard. I did 9 years, so I was out in 2012.
Okay, so you jump in 16 and you win on Oneida. Who'd you draw there?
Steve Mooey on day one.
You fished with Steve?
Yeah, day one.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Shane Burlow on day 2, and then the final day I had Will Hardy. He actually won the tournament.
Oh wow, those are good. Those are good.
Yeah.
So to fast forward through it, so you win that one. So you have one co-angler win under your belt, and then you jump over to the FLW tour.
FLW tour at the time. Yep.
FLW tour, which was, I guess, the last. Well, no, 19 would have been the last year. So in 2018, but it was the last year they had co-anglers, correct?
Right. Yep.
And you win back-to-back tournaments out of the back of the boat on FLW and do over $50,000 out of the back of the boat in 1 year. So what was the entry fees for that as a co at the time?
I don't remember.
Like, I mean, you were made tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think they were like maybe $450 or $500 an event.
Really? So then it's interesting. So I found the article from, Minnesota co-angler wins again. And in that article, you talked about from April of 2018, you talked about how this is all part of the game plan. I've been looking forward to eventually making a living fishing for a long time. Winning that last tournament and now this one should make that happen. So then you been pretty much all in since 2019, right? Yeah.
Through the co-angler division, I qualified to move to the front of the boat as a boater in 2019 for the FLW tour, and
caught him.
What's that?
Caught him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good year. Looking back now, I'm like, I have no idea how I even did that or what. I just went fishing, and obviously I've learned so much since then. But looking back now, I'm like, man, I think I got pretty lucky at how well I did. I mean, I took 23rd in Angler of the Year. Made the Forest Wood Cup that year. Had a good finish in the Cup. I think
the last Cup ever.
Yeah, the last
Thrifts Cup on Hamilton.
Yep. And had a good year that year, and I mean, it was a good year. I mean, I cashed in checks and made a championship, but again, I about broke even with I was covering everything out of my own pocket that year. No sponsor help at all. Everything that I had made from the previous year. And then, my boat I was using, I had an old bass boat before I won that co-angler one up on Oneida. And at the time in the opens, they were giving away a boat. So I sold both of those boats and got a new 21-foot bass boat. And that's what I fished out of the first year on the FLW tour. So I had my boat covered, and then all the expenses. I paid my entry fees and my travel costs with what I won the previous year as a co-angler.
So that was roughly 2 years. Yeah, you were like $130,000 in winnings, and it cost probably a little bit less than that. So that's interesting. So no, you didn't have a single paying sponsor that was a industry company that wrote Joel Willert Fishing a check those years. That was all back of the boat, co-angler, boat winnings to get your start.
Yep.
And were you doing anything on the side then, or were you just fishing?
I was just fishing. I did work for a company up here in Minnesota, and I was fortunate enough to kind of take a part-time position. I stepped down from a full-time position, which I was doing previous to that, and they gave me a part-time position. I was able to work when I was home if I wanted to, and worked out really good. But in 2019, I still worked a little bit when I was home, through the breaks that we had when I was home.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of 2019, I resigned from that position and just said, you know what, I'm gonna go all in and stay on the road and travel and try to make this happen.
So I think that's when I met you then in 2020, because I only fished one division of the Opens in 2020, and I fished two divisions of the Toyotas in 19. But what made you make the move over to the Opens instead of jump into the pro circuit in 2020?
Well, I obviously grew up watching the Elite Series, and I was, that was just kind of where my mindset was. I just wanted to make the Bassmaster Elite Series, and doing the FLW Tour that year, having a pretty good year and breaking even. I knew in the back of my head that if I went out there and did it again with those entry fees and doing all that and had a bad year, I was really only one bad year from not being able to do what I wanted, to set my goals basically to keep fishing. So I decided to fish the Opens instead. The entry fees are obviously a lot less, and just wanted to kind of focus everything on the Opens and try to make the Elites.
Did you pick up any? I'm trying to get a timeline here because I just want to see how this works out. So did you pick up any sponsors after a great year, a top 25 in the Angler of the Year? You finished 12th in the Cup at Hamilton. At that point, you'd had 3 major wins out of the back of the boat as a co-angler. You were an angler that qualified for the tour based off of back-to-back wins. Were there any kind of deals that started developing then 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, they did. I got my first paying sponsor after that. Had a few other sponsors come on board, product deals and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't enough to cover all the expensive fishing, but everything helped out. And, I was getting my feet wet and doing what I could to keep fishing and obviously help out my sponsors and do everything I could to just keep the ball rolling. Yeah.
So 2020, decent year. I mean, you were top 10 in the overall, top 30s in both the Eastern and the Central Division. You did $10,000. I hate to use the term earnings. So you had $10,000 in checks against 16.2 in earnings, but it sounded like you had a little bit of income coming in from sponsor-wise. And then 2021 happened. And I think that's where there were a lot of people that had maybe knew who you or Greg Mansfield, who you did the 2021 season with, also were. And knowing that you'd won, that you'd had a good year on that, but that was where there were a number of guys that went, they're doing what? And you fished all 9 Opens in 2021, and you fished the inaugural season of the NPFL, which was 6 events plus the 9 Opens, 15 weeks on the road, just for the tournament fishing weeks, camped. And we're on the road for over 30 weeks out of the 52 weeks of the year in 2021.
Yeah, it was a wild year, man. I loved every second of it. It was busy. I mean, we decided to jump all in, and I had a title sponsor that year, which there's no way I would have been able to do it without that title sponsor. And I had my entry fees covered, and everything. I was fishing free, on the water, not having to worry about much except just going to catch a bass, and had a good year overall. I mean, we were on the road. It seemed like we were going from tournament to tournament to tournament. We'd pack up from one tournament and we're on the road to the next one. We'd start practice the next day, and we just kept going and got in the flow of things, and really enjoyed it. I mean, there was really not a whole lot of downtime between the tournaments.
going into that, did you know how ridiculous that schedule was, how much you would be gone? Was there any apprehension of that, or was that what you had been working for the whole time since that FLW interview where you said, hey, I think this allows me to make a run at this full time now?
Yeah, I mean, we put in a lot of preparation for it. When we decided that we were going to fish, all 9 opens and the MPFL. Before the year started, we had all the logistics completely set. We knew exactly what campgrounds we were staying at. When we were going to be traveling from place to place. I mean, everything was 100% set before we started the year. So that's really, I look at that as kind of half of the business is the logistics and traveling and doing all that, and the other half is obviously being out on the water fishing and catching the bass. But so having all that completely set, knowing where we had to go, when we had to pack up, I mean, everything was on the schedule, and it really made life easy being able to do it. I mean, obviously there was things that you can't control, maintenance things that hold you up here and there or whatever else. But overall it was a pretty smooth year for how many we fished.
Yeah, and you rolled with Greg Mansfield, and it was called The Sickness Outdoors, and you guys both filmed it, and it was every single tournament was documented, put out on YouTube, and then Greg camped, and then you camped next to him, and you do the truck camper deal?
Yep, I have a Lance truck bed camper.
Yeah, and that was a crazy year. So that was when I got to know you guys a little bit better, because you were literally traveling gypsies. Yeah. Between the NPFL and the Opens. You went 16th overall in the Opens. You were 11th in the Central Division. But then on the NPFL, you cashed a check in all 6 events. You had a top 10, and you did roughly $80K, $77,000 in earnings by the end of the year. Those were what, 5? I've done some numbers here because I wanted to see how this worked. You're cool with this?
Yeah. I'm interested to hear them too.
So 77K. Basically, you 77K at $30,000 in entry fees for the MPFLs, right?
30,000.
5K, 16.2 for all 9 opens in the 2021 overall. So you're at 46.2 in your entry fees. You're at 85K. You're basically did 40,000 above your entry fees. Then if you do the 30 weeks of travel, you were basically at $1,000 a week, a little over $1,000 a week in expenses. So that would have been if you had zero sponsorship whatsoever. This is what blew my mind when I did these numbers. You'd have broken even with with zero sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts to me. That's almost $100,000 in a year.
And that's obviously just covering the fishing expenses. That's not covering all the other expenses. Obviously you got bills and maintenance stuff. I mean, you're running that hard across the country and putting on thousands and thousands of miles. You're going to have stuff that breaks down. So you got, camper maintenance and boat maintenance and truck maintenance and, all that on top of, other bills and stuff. It's just, it's one of those things where it's tough to even having a really good year. And I was proud of the year I had. I mean, it's hard to make money. It's hard to make money doing it, to be brutally honest.
Did it fly by, or did it seem like a grind? 21, looking back on it now.
It flew by, man. We were just on the go, and I look back, I'm like, it was almost kind of a blur, honestly. And I actually fished more tournaments than just the ones that you talked. I fished right when I got down to Florida in the beginning of the year. I jumped in a BFL on Harris Chain before the Open, and I think we fished a couple tournaments on Table Rock, like a couple Anglers in Action tournaments when we were down in the area. And, we were just ate up with it. We were just fishing. We just were staying on the water and doing everything we could to just stay on the water and keep fishing. It was an awesome year.
Could you tell you were becoming a better angler over the course of that year?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just spending that much time on the water, just really, really, being in the boat by myself that long, just kind of finding myself, finding my groove, understanding what decisions I need to make, in certain situations. I mean, it's, I learned so much, that year, just figuring out these bodies of water. And, a lot of those bodies of water, the MPFL, I'd never been to, and never went and pre-practiced them. We got 3 days of practice in the tournament, and just put a lot of confidence that I could go out and find fish, and confidence in the pattern that I kind of picked before I went to the lake, and just kind of ran with it, and it worked out.
Yeah, this is probably the most diverse schedule ever. So 2021, Harris Chain, Douglas in Tennessee, Pickwick, Virginia, James River, Tidal Fishery, Oneida, Thousand Islands, Lake Norman, Spotted Bass, Lewis Smith, Spotted Bass, Ozarks, Grand Lake, no grass, and then Eufaula in Alabama, Wright Patman in Texas, which is like a total unknown, Harris Chain in Florida. You had Pickwick again, Lake Winnebago up in Wisconsin, which I'm assuming you had some familiarity with being from where you're from.
Never fished it.
It kind of sucked, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually one we had like a 3-week break, and I actually was on my way home and stopped in there for a few days and did pre-practice that one, and nothing that I found in pre-practice or thought was going to work in pre-practice actually worked in the tournament that much, but that was one that I did pre-practice just because I felt pressure, being from Wisconsin originally and going to Wisconsin to the lake. I felt a little bit more pressure for whatever reason. I knew my whole family, and I was going to have a bunch of friends there. I'm like, I better catch them here. So, it was a tough tournament. I mean, I think that it's a good body of water. It's just that time of year was tough.
Were you able to find that there were like certain themes that when you're fishing that much across the country and traveling to different species and different bodies of water, natural lakes and tidal fisheries and Florida and Ozarks and East Coast and Thousand Islands, are there certain things that like just always work that you realize like, dude, as long as I can do this, I'm good at this, I can find fish, like certain patterns that you realize that you wouldn't have ever been able to put together without that much back-to-back time on the water?
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where between tournaments, I didn't have a whole lot of time to re-rig and, completely change out all my rods and reels. So I mean, there were certain baits that I used at every single tournament throughout the year and caught fish on them and probably wade fishing on them. I mean, obviously one being a drop shot. I love finesse fishing, and if I ever need a bite, I can pick up a spinning rod and go catch fish, I feel like. But, that was obviously one that is, you find the baits that work for you, that you have confidence in, that you can catch fish all over the country, no matter where you go. And I just kind of stuck to my guns doing that a lot, and, just picked up confidence baits, and everywhere we went, I was able to catch fish.
What percent do you think were on a spinning rod? Because I was like 89% of my fish in 21 in the 9 opens were caught on a spinning rod, 40% on a drop shot, like 15% on a Ned, and like 12% on a wacky worm. Like I did all that because I'm a psychopath. Did you? What were your numbers? Would you say? Because I remember that every time I watched your videos or saw it, it seemed like very familiar stuff, or ran into you on the water. You always seemed to be an egg beater guy too.
Yeah. I mean, probably, I don't know. I mean, maybe 75% of the fish I weighed in that year come on a spinning rod.
So that's a lot.
Yeah, and it was it was one of those things where those new bodies of water, I just wanted to in practice. I love just idling around and graphing and just figuring out where I can get a few bites, and picking up a spinning rod like that. I feel like if there's a fish or a few fish there, that I can easily get a bite on it quick, and just to try to clue me in how I can get a few bites and then run with it during the tournament, figure it out during the tournament. But just being able to get a bite or two and just get a confidence in a pattern to get practice going, or, to have somewhere to go come tournament time to really put the pieces of the puzzle together when it matters, is a reason I really kept spinning rod in my hand, and just confidence.
You typically start on a certain section of the lake when you dump the boat in on one of these new bodies of water. I know you had some marathon practice sessions. You had some other practice sessions where you only had a day and a half, 2 days, because you were going from an open to an MPFL or vice versa. You had some weeks off where you were like, hey, I've got 8 days to practice for this upcoming open. Like, when you dump the boat in the water to start graphing, do you typically start in a certain section of the pond?
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, the research that I do, I did do some research, prior to the year and made a notebook with a bunch of notes, kind of just the areas where they've been caught in the past, where guys have caught them, or tournaments have been won in the past. And what I'd always do, what worked for me is that, maybe I'd go check those areas right away in practice and just see if I can't get a few bites, just to get my confidence up that I can go catch a few fish if I need to. And then from there, I'd start branching out and trying to duplicate if that kind of structure or pattern, or I would just completely switch it up and just go to try to find some off the wall stuff. And, that's what works best for me, is knowing in the back of my head that I have a couple areas that I can go get a few bites in if I need to, but now I'm going to spend the rest of my practice just trying to find something off the wall, or find, areas that maybe aren't getting hit by a lot of boats, or just are not out there on the internet that say, hey, this tournament's been won here.
Yeah. So over the course of this pattern, like you've had a lot of really solid, like, check cash finishes and a couple top tens, but no real contention for the wins from the front of the boat. Fair?
Yeah.
Did you have you gone through like an identity crisis? Like, I need to change things up. I need to power fish more. I need to take more risks, more gambles, anything of that? Or are you completely comfortable with this style, knowing that you're trying to attain the next step and that you're willing to sacrifice that win? Or do you think that all this stuff can be won with the egg beater?
No, I mean, I think it's, obviously every lake is different. I mean, like, this year's a good example of that. I started out the year, obviously fishing for points. I just wanted to make sure that I could not have a bomb, and I did that throughout the first 4 tournaments, and the first half of the year was great. Everything was going good. I think I cashed a few checks and took a top 10 at Cherokee, and things are rolling. And then the second half of the season, the wheels kind of fell off, man. I was still trying to, I was kind of thinking back. I kind of felt like I had double the pressure on me. I mean, it probably sounds like an excuse, and it is, but it's, between trying to fish for the points and then also trying to make sure that I could get a paycheck, or, get paid this tournament, is, I felt like I was fishing a little bit scared, more or less. And then at the end of the year, the last couple tournaments, Rayburn especially, I knew that I was out of it, and I just went for the win. I did what I thought I had to do. I mean, practice led me kind of down the wrong path, caught some big ones in practice, and just really, really went for the win there, where I thought I might get 5 bites and they could all be 7 or 8 pounders. So it really depends on, in the beginning of the year, I always started out fishing for points, no doubt.
After 2021, though, you no MPFL in 2022. I mean, you kind of scaled it back and just went back to the Opens. Was that just a financial deal?
It was, yeah. Like I said, I had a title sponsor in 2021, and then 2022, the company that I had my title sponsor through switched hands, and a bunch of things happened that were out of my control, and so I didn't end up having a title sponsor for 2022, which is why on my rig right now you see my logo, Joel Willert Fishing, on the side of my boat, because I'm my own title sponsor I was my own title sponsor for this year. So yeah, that was just a financial thing, more or less.
Okay, so I sign up this year, and then obviously we call each other. And we're going to take a break, and then we're going to get into this bit too. And you're like, yeah, dude, I'm not signed up for not signed up yet for the 2023 Opens. I was like, what? Huh? Like, dude, you've like almost made it. You finished 16th overall this year out of 88 guys that started it. You were 16th last year. You're perennially in the top 40 in every single division that you fish. I know you were just coming off of an epic 2021 year. You're one of the handful of guys that, when they talk about it, it'll be like, it's just a matter of time. Like Joel, he'll make, there's a number of those guys that are in the opens that I don't think people realize that are super talented, super dedicated, and it's just the timing has to be right for them. Would you agree?
Yeah, no.
But I thought it was interesting that you're not signed up for 2023, and it never even crossed my mind that you wouldn't. So we're going to take our first break of the day. When we come back, I want to dive into that. I want to dive into decision-making that went behind that, and then what your plans are for 2023. And yeah, we'll go from there and see where that takes us. So BTL on a Tuesday, November 29th. Holy cow, we're getting close to Christmas. Once December hits, it's just a chaos by the end. BTL on a Tuesday, Minnesota's Joel Willert. We'll be back right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the Angler design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Hey guys, Gerald Swindle representing the AFCO Hydronaut. This is the jacket I love wearing when times is tough, and I'm talking about the weather, not the fishing. The jacket, what I like, I got a double cup right here. I can seal up the bottom of my jacket because when you're fishing, you're holding your arms up. You're bad about getting water that runs downhill. Everything bends good. I'm long arm. Look, it fits very comfortable. My arms is flexible. I've got the speed hood on, pouring down rain. I can get everything zipped up. One thing they did is they made plenty of pocket space. If you ain't got enough pockets in the Hydronaut rain suit, you just got too much stuff. From the water membrane, that's 30K, baby. 30 times the reason you ain't gonna get wet. Super warm. If it's cold in the wintertime, you put on your Hydronaut, you're gonna be a much more comfortable person. If you don't want to just look sexy at Dairy Queen, wear your Hydronaut. We got it from small to 5X. Most rain gear does not come in that many sizes. You got waist adjusting straps. We can make it fit you. No matter what the environment is, we want you to be comfortable. We want you to be dry. You gotta check it out. It ain't gonna let you down.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Welcome back, BTL, with Joel Willert. I was trying to do some troubleshooting during it, so I've noticed at some point during the show I have one spot that like is running on my end, but then it doesn't run on the actual show, so it's just silent. So it's just us sitting there for like 28 seconds, not realizing that it's done it like the last 3 shows, but I can't figure out which ad it is, Joel. It's some major podcasting issues on this end. We'll figure it out in the second commercial break, though, I promise, because it went flawlessly in the first part. So that whole first segment, Joel, was to set the stage, to let people know talented angler doesn't come into this with 7 figures backing you. Military veteran, living your dream out, putting in the time, earning your spot from the front of the boat through wins from the back of the boat, using that funding to progress yourself each year, stepping outside of your comfort zone, expanding your tournaments, finishing in the top 5 in the Angler of the Year, making almost $100,000 a year, building your sponsorship game, and all this in a 5-6 year period, which is highly impressive. So it's not like, hey, I tried it and I suck at it, and now I have to go back to the real world. Like, this is a career plan. This is something you've been building. So when I found out, when you were like, yeah, man, I'm going to build some other stuff and work on it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get in fish the Opens in 2023, it shocked me, dude, because I assumed you were like there for the next 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely not an easy decision. You know, it's I had to make a decision, either go fish them or take a year off and try to figure something else out, get more financially stable to make sure that when I'm on the water, I'm not worrying about, what's going to happen if I don't catch a limit that day or if I don't get a check that tournament. I've always kind of been one of them guys that just, I play my cards conservative, if you will. I've never really been in debt in my life, and I don't want to go into debt at this point in my life right now, trying to chase this. I just, the way I've always been is if I have the money and the backing to go do it, I absolutely will. And will do everything I can to make the dream possible. But, I sat down long and hard and thought about it for a long time and talked to a lot of my buddies and I made the decision to not sign up. I had the priority entry finishing in the top 20 or 25 in points this year to get in. And that day came, and it was a tough day, man. I mean, it's, I lost some sleep over it, no doubt.
That's terrifying to guys like me and probably any of the other guys in the Opens listening, because like I said, it's not like you sucked. You did $19,413 in the Opens. You covered your entry fees here, but I'm trying to think. So Bass obviously wants to, or any of the tournament organization. I'm just using Bass. This is what we fish for. This is, they've made the change to the 9. I hope this comes out as a coherent thought, but they're trying to better prepare, and rightfully so. I think they listened to a lot of the anglers that were fishing it and fishing all 9. Better prepare anglers for when they get to the Elite Series, from a competition, a travel, a coast-to-coast, a different fisheries level, to be able to go through the gauntlet and say, hey, these guys come ready to compete. There's a handful of freak shows, Shakurits, Poliniks, all those guys, Jordan Lees, they were just born ready to do that. But for us mere mortals, you have some seasoning that goes into that, right? That gives you a better chance to succeed. I can go through the list and name you 30 guys that are incredibly talented anglers that you've never heard of because they were on the Elite Series and then they were gone. Wrecked them in their 20s, early 20s. But it's also scary because what do you do for the guy who has been on the verge, who's right there, who obviously is talented, is cashing the checks? Like, like a guy in your position, like there has to be a level at that AAA level or some way to make it work without being independently financially wealthy, having a crazy non-endemic backing, or winning a tournament, which is very difficult to do. Like those are the three ways that the Opens work. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, that's it. Yeah, you either need to have the sponsor backing or have a bunch of money put away that you can go blow to travel around and fish, or just go catch them. I mean, it's, as much as I do, it's incredibly hard to make money in the Opens. I mean, I think they're moving to 250 this year at a 225 boat field to even get a paycheck to cover your entry fee and a little bit of your travel costs. I mean, you're beating 82 to 83% of the field just to get that paycheck. And I mean, that's incredibly hard against these, how many talented anglers are out there trying to do this.
So how do you keep the Joel Willerts in it and the other 40 guys? You can name a handful right now too, can't you? That are in the exact same position that you're in, that have caught them, that have been on the verge of qualifying, that are very talented anglers, that have endemic sponsorships. But like I said, that endemic pie is small, so they have to figure out Elite Series, BPT, Toyotas, invitationals, social media guys, podcasts, websites. Like there's a certain number of pie in there, and the sponsorship deals, unless you have some weird deal that you can show your value to extrapolate that to a massive market, isn't enough to survive on the Opens for a year with $35,000 of expenses to go for all 9 events. Is there a fix? Is there a way to do this to where you can keep the talented and competitive anglers in the field and keep their head above water and keep them out of debt to where they can become an asset to the organization in 3 or 4 years, and they're not put in situations where they have to make the decision of, house payments, debt, credit card debt, or fishing?
I mean, I wish I had that answer. I'm the one that you're talking about. I mean, it's I guess I don't really have an answer for it. I mean, I wish I did. I mean, me personally, I do have some paying sponsors, and I'm very grateful for them. And I don't have all of my costs covered to justify being able to fish full time, and then be able to cover all my other expenses outside of the fishing. It's one of those things where maybe I should have went after sponsors harder the last few years. Obviously last year I had my title sponsor, and I was set for the year. But it's one of those things where in the back of my head personally, I was always like, yeah, I should go after sponsors, but at the same time, I should just go out on the water and just go catch them.
But you're buttoned up too. I mean, you're professional. You've got the social media side. You have sponsors. Like, it's not like you're just going out and being like, oh, if a sponsor comes to me, a sponsor comes to you. Like I said, you're the top echelon guy there.
Yeah, and I definitely have sponsors, and I got some paying sponsors. Not all of my sponsors are paying sponsors, but and I'm very grateful for them. But with the amount of sponsors that I have right now, I mean, I don't have the sponsor dollars coming in to cover all of my expenses between my travel expenses, my entry fees, and everything else that comes with it, where I'm able to, without having another income coming in at all, to cover all the expenses outside of the fishing. That's where where it comes down to, if I do decide to do it, am I going to put myself into credit card debt and just gamble that I can go out there and have a great year? That's not what I want to do. I don't want to go out there and gamble and not have a good year and put myself in a hole. But it could go the other way. I don't want to make this sound like I'm coming on here to cry the blues away or whatever. But
no. I came on and said, dude, are you willing to talk about this? And you're like, yeah, it's going to suck. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not trying to show it like that. I want it to show the reality of it.
Yeah.
I hope that's how it hasn't come across like that at all, Joel.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm grateful for what I've been able to do the past few years. And, bottom line is I didn't sign up for the Opens for next year. And I'm definitely not going to not fish next year. I'm going to just kind of step back. I'll probably fish some local regional stuff. I might jump into what I can, maybe if there's a division of Opens that I decide to jump into, if it works out, and just go out there, I guess, try to win one and make the classic or whatever. I'm really going to focus on my guiding business. I've been doing some guiding up on Lake Mille Lacs and got a really good buddy, Josh Douglas. He guides up there. And, he's been helping me out the past few years, giving me some clients and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to really build up my clientele. Spent a lot of time in the water doing some guiding and fishing local tournaments. I'm going to try to jump into the Champions Tour up here in Minnesota, maybe the Minnesota Bass Nation Team Trail, maybe some BFLs, just stay busy and keep fishing. And, by no means am I saying that this is the end. I'm not going to come back to the Bassmaster Opens, but, financially and everything else right now, I just felt like this is what I needed to do for next year. Just, step away for the year as of now and just make sure that I'm not putting myself into a hole and I can, look forward to the following years to come.
How old are you?
39.
Yeah, we're basically the same age, 38. All right, couple thoughts that come across here. This is the only, I don't call it a sport, I call it a competitive activity. But this is the only competitive activity that you can reach a level where you become financially secure based on achievements, where the closer you get to the top, the more risk you incur. Think about that. You make it to AAA ball, you make it to the AHL, you make it to the web.com or the Hooters, you make it to anything else like right below the very top, you're on either two-way contracts or the prize money because you've proven yourself to be valuable and you've gotten through the mud, right? Yeah. Fishing is so bizarre because the closer you get to it, the more it costs, the more risk it occurs, and the closer you are to falling off the edge. Either way.
Crazy to think about it like that.
It is.
No doubt.
So here's the next thing. I've made a weird living in this industry, Joel. I'm pretty much a jack of all trades inside of it. Didn't start fishing at that AAA level until 2018, 2019. Did the Bass Nation Club, Bass Nation, Regional, BFL, the whole thing. I fished it all. But the one thing that I have noticed, if you listen to any people who are successful in being the Gary V's, anything like that, they talk about finding something that you have a passion for, that you grind for, that you have hard work for, that you can develop a skill set, and that knowledge and relationships will always trump cash. Which it's easy to say that on Instagram. And when you're watching that without cash, you're like, I don't know. I'd kind of like the cash right now. You know what I'm saying? But in the long run, in an industry that is a multi-million-dollar industry, it is very small. I mean, we go everywhere, and you pretty much know everybody who has it inside. Dude, there is a need for people like you and me. Like, I've made my living in the fishing industry. I'm just a kid from Illinois that interned with a website with a angry 6'4" redheaded dude who was mad at the world and was going to prove that he could have a second career in the bass fishing industry, right? So I kind of got lucky in that and then worked and said it. But to me, it blows my mind. You talk to a couple of these other guys that are out there. You have all of the assets that endemic companies in the industry need to position their product, to sell their product, for marketing, for support, for all of this stuff. And it's sitting right there. And to them, like entry fees, sponsorship, health, medical, and benefit, all that stuff that to them they take for granted would be gold for you. And it's a total symbiotic win-win relationship. And I don't know why more endemic companies in the industry aren't utilizing Joel Willert as a consultant, as an independent contractor, to saying, hey, you want to do this to the next level, here's what we need. We need someone in the industry who knows how to do this instead of hiring people who have no idea and going in 18 million different directions. You have built that value within yourself to be valuable to numerous different companies. And I think that's a missed opportunity by a lot of endemic companies that could go, dude, I could help him and he could help us. And there's like 15 or 20 guys out there right now that should be able to freelance and add immense value to companies while still chasing their dream of professional bass fishing at the highest level. My rant's over.
It's a good rant. No, I completely agree, and I appreciate you saying that. But yeah, I mean, that would be awesome if you could fish and work within the industry and travel and, you know, do stuff for, you know, your partners and everything else while you're on the road and around the industry your entire year. You know, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's that'd be a really cool deal.
There's a wasp on the floor. Oh no, that's a cricket. Never mind. If you're an industry company listening, what's your best contact info? Shoot you a DM?
Yeah, DM, that's fine. I got a website, just joelwillertfishing.com.
I know it's fancy too. I was on it this morning. I was like, dang, that thing is fancy.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest email, or you can shoot me DM, Instagram, Facebook.
Am I off base on that? Am I not looking at that realistically?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. I guess I haven't thought about it like that, but it makes sense. I mean, it makes complete sense to me. I mean, if you're trying to sell fishing products, to get somebody that is around the fishing industry 24/7 throughout the year, I mean, and has good contacts, knows everybody, gets along with everybody, I mean, shoot, that's kind of a no-brainer.
I think if there's one thing we've learned over the past 3 or 4 years, it's that Matt Herron actually talked about this really well in the Bilge, Zaldane's new podcast. Trayton Zaldane's has a new podcast, and I was driving home for Thanksgiving, and Matt will call every 5 or 6 months, and it's usually an awesome rant. And I was like, holy cow, an hour and 40 minutes of Matt Herron ranting. I'm in. So I fired it up, and he had some really good points. He's been with a lot of sponsors in the industry for a long time about the industry feeds the industry, right? So you know what you are, who you're trying to sell to. That's such value.
Yeah.
Because you know what resonates with you.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I mean, honestly, I haven't thought about it that way, but that makes sense to me.
Here's the other thing that I struggle with, and let me see if you struggle with it too. You have Polinick on, or I do. Everyone does. He has his own channel. Carl, even Josh Douglas or Daryl Glee, guys who grinded for 10 years. And they come on and they're like, do you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to make it? And you talk about Carl with the Greek card and Indent coming over and Polinick. And I had Timmy Horton going, man, you have to physically hurt when you're not catching a bass. And, you know, you leave those interviews going, yeah, I'm willing to go in debt. I'm willing to sell it all. I'm willing to risk it on the farm. I'm willing to do illegal things at truck stops to get to the next turn. You know, you leave there feeling like you're on top of the world, and then reality hits, and then someone like realistically, like you're on, right? You're going, dude, I have a whole life. I'm not willing to wreck this entire life to chase this dream, and I get stuck. And I think a lot of it, I know for a fact, because I have these conversations. I've been having these conversations for the last month with a lot of guys, whether they're invitational guys that are trying to justify entry fees over there for a limited payback, whether it's open guys who are signed up with the payback not. And you're like, where do you draw the line between chasing the dream and being risky and doing something that 95% of the population isn't willing to do to still have your name in the pot? And where do you be like, this is dumb, I'm not wrecking my life for something that's foolish because I'm not in the position? Do you struggle with that too, or is that just me?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like I've given up a lot of stuff to get to where I'm at right now. I mean, I owned a house that I sold my house in 2018, and knowing, when I knew I was going to go to the FLW tour at the time, in 2019, I sold my house and I ended up moving in, renting a townhome, just so I didn't have to, worry about my house back home when I was on the road, and maintenance and all that stuff. So I ended up renting a townhome, got rid of my house, and then I'm renting a place from a buddy and keeping a bunch of my stuff in his unfinished basement down there. And now I don't own a home anymore. I kind of gave that up, and now I got stuff spread out all over. My boat's actually down in Kansas right now in storage. I got my truck and my camper at another place over in Minnesota in storage. I got a bunch of my stuff and my girlfriend's in Minneapolis. Like I kind of got stuff spread out all over. I don't really have necessarily a complete home base right now. So that's really, another factor of not fishing the opens next year is just trying to get all that stuff back into line, making sure that I have a place, a stable place where I can get all my stuff back into the one area and just get more financially stable, so I can really hit it hard for the years to come.
So you have a legit website. The guiding thing has to be kind of cool, though, especially with Josh Douglas. I mean, that dude seems like he's got it absolutely dialed in up there in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, he does really good up there. He's understands the lake, lives right on Mille Lacs there, and it's a great lake. I mean, I've spent a ton of time up there. I've done a lot of guide trips up there, and fish tournaments with Josh up there. I mean, I understand and know the lake really well. I mean, there's always new stuff that I'm finding out there, but yeah, it's a great lake for guiding. We get a lot of clients from down in Texas or, from places where, smallmouth aren't predominant, and they come up there and you can get them on some 4 and 5 pound smallmouth, man. It's, I have way more fun watching them catch them than catching them, myself. I get a kick out of it. I just love it. I really enjoy doing it. It's very rewarding to go out there and watch these people catch these fish, and it's a blast, man. I love doing it.
That's good stuff. I want to have one more segment. You good for one more segment?
I'm good, man.
I want to take the experience that you've had over the last 5 years, combine it with my open experience, and I want us to come back and build the perfect Bassmaster Open angler to qualify for the Elite Series.
Perfect.
Sound like a fun challenge?
That's fun.
All right, maybe we'll also find out which ad isn't running. It's BTL on a Tuesday with Joel Willert. We'll be back right after this. Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at DenaliRods.com. Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at BigBiteBaits.com.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got sparkle shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte sexy shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte sexy shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
We're back. Everything worked flawlessly, so there's a ghost in the machine.
Good deal.
That's weird. I think that's got to be like, I'm looking at the comments here on the instant feedback. Bassmaster Open winner Keith Tuma is on the instant feedback there. I've been told by multiple people up north that when if he gets rolling, it's game over.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know Keith that well. I know that he can catch bass, no doubt about it. But
yeah,
I guess I don't know him personally very well.
That conversation you just said, you know what takes care of itself? If you go out like Keith did and just pop the first open you ever fish in Florida and just pocket $52,300.
It's pretty awesome.
Winning takes care of a lot too, doesn't it, Joel?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's a good thing to happen.
But you have to have people who don't win in order to have a winner. I'm not looking at that as a loser's mentality. I'm just saying, in order for a win to be meaningful, what do you have to have? Talented people who don't win. That's what makes wins important.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it was just the Minnesota Wild and no other teams in the NHL, the Stanley Cup celebration wouldn't be nearly as much as it would be after they go through 4 rounds of the playoffs.
Makes it that much more special, for sure.
Yeah, it's because there's 30 losers. All right, the perfect Bassmaster Open angler. You're able to build a cyborg angler to roll through the Bassmaster Opens. Let's think of some characteristics, some 5 things that they have to possess in order to be, let's do realistic, right? Like maybe attainable, that if guys are wanting to, or guys who are fishing the Opens want to possibly be able to work on or work towards, things that you have noticed over your 30 plus Opens and time in the back of the boat and invitational and NPFL time that seems to be a thread that all of the good ones and that you have. Kick it off. I'll put the pressure on you.
I think, number one for me would be just having the right equipment, to do the job. Whether that be, the right boat, the right electronics, just the right equipment so you're not held up and making sure that everything's going to start up and allow you to do what you need to do on the water.
All right. So I guess the first overall arching that would have to deal with all this then is financial security.
Financial security. It's a big one.
Can you catch them? You can. I know you can catch them stressed out, not financially secure. but in the long run, that takes out a variable that sinks 95% of the guys who have the talent to do it.
Yeah.
Fair assessment?
Fair assessment.
All right. So equipment okay, I'll go. I think you have to have the drive. You can't go through the motions.
Right.
It has to be something that you really, really want. And when you're on the water by yourself for that long of amount of time and that away from home with that many logistics, you learn really quick if it's someplace you really honestly want to be.
That's yeah. If you don't have the drive, you don't want to really be out there. You're not going to succeed. There's no doubt.
You know who I saw had the drive this year? Well, I mean, everyone who makes it, for the most part, has the drive. But Coop, dude, that dude was always on fire for it this year every time I saw him. And also John Soko. Mm-hmm. Not saying that Brad didn't or anything, but there's like this certain different level of people are trying to take what's mine. You know what I mean?
I definitely saw that. You know, I wasn't around John a whole lot this year, but I definitely saw that in Coop. We traveled together a little bit, and I mean he's unbelievable, obviously on the water, but he does whatever he needs to do to. I mean, he roughs it a lot of times. I mean, I think we were at Chesapeake Bay, and he came to the campground I was at, and he's like, I'm just gonna sleep in the front of my truck, and I was like, dude, you're not gonna sleep in the front seat of your truck. I'm like, it was raining out, it was hot, it was muggy, it was nasty, and he ended up staying in my camper. But yeah, man, he's definitely got the drive. He's all in, determined, and does very well at catching bass too.
Okay, you have finances, the proper equipment, and drive on the water. What is this? Let's do some skill sets on the water then to succeed at the open level that you have to have.
You know, it really comes down to making the right decision making, understanding what the fish are doing, where the fish are going, what to do if your plan A or plan B doesn't work out. You know, being able to make those decisions in a split second, which is going to, you know, a lot of times in a lot of tournaments, things don't go the way you want, and being able to back that up with the right decision is really what I feel is going to propel somebody to make the elites, to have a good, successful year or successful tournament, you know, every tournament to be in that top 9 now.
I agree. Let me build on that and saying being able to identify productive water, because fish will not leave productive water, but fish will move and reposition in productive water based on fishing pressure. So the holy grail is finding unpressured productive water, which just doesn't happen in the opens, right? So finding productive water and then being able to make adjustments inside of that productive water. I think you do that a lot too. I see you in a lot of areas of the lake. A lot of the times over the last couple of years, I feel like we're in the same sections, the same areas of the lake. And I've had bad tournaments, and how many times have I come to you and been like, "You're doing what? Like you're kidding, right? You're not catching them." And you're like, "Yeah, dude, you've been able to find little adjustments." And then it's been vice versa. I've done the same thing too. But I think that a good opens angler is able to find productive water and then make adjustments in that productive water instead of bailing and running.
Right. That's what, you know, last couple of years, that's kind of been my mindset, is always stay ahead of the fish. Don't get behind them. You know, if I'm catching them here, where are they going? You know, where do these fish want to go? If I leave this spot and 15 other boats come to the spot, push these fish off, where are they going to go? And that's, you know, it's always been kind of my mindset on the water, is stay ahead of the fish, and usually it pans out, or a lot of times it has.
Execution, massive. I had Miles Berghoff on yesterday. We talked about that. He had a big talk with me about, dude, how many times do you go out and practice hooking and landing fish? Go back to that bilge podcast. Rick Clunn was talking about like hook points, keeping the hook points moving towards the boat. There's all sorts of stuff like that. But in the opens, the guys who execute the best hook to land ratio finish the highest, bar none, because one mistake isn't 10 places, it's 50 places.
Yeah, when we did last year, I mean, in the last couple of years, I mean, obviously everybody loses fish, and I know you and Miles talked about it yesterday. You just, a lot of times you can't help it the way the fish eats the bait or whatever. But I mean, I can go back and, just lost fish that I've had on, that I've seen, that I've had by the boat, that have come off. I'd be on the Elite Series right now. Which is, I mean, that's rewarding to know that I've been around those fish and whatever. But yeah, I mean, execution is so big. You cannot lose those fish under your control. It's everything.
So I think, why when I fun fish do I not lose them? Why in the opens on game day do they seem to come off? And I think it goes back to pressure as well. I firmly believe that if you're in an area with a lot of boats, those fish are eating it differently. On Oneida, at Ross Barnett, places like that, at even at Hartwell on by the end of the second day and day 3. I think you do have a tendency to lose more because the fish are not as aggressively attacking the bait because they're feeling that. Whatever, whether you want to call it pinging or waves or pressure or trolling motors or whatever. The school's getting busted up. But I think the bite is different in the tournament a lot of the time unless you find that holy grail spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you say Oneida, this year I lost a couple of fish in the tournament, a couple of good ones on a tube, which in practice, when I first got out there, I was trying to shake them off and I was hooking them. And then as practice went on, I was cutting my hook off below the barb and I actually caught some fish that I got all the way to the boat and I just boat flipped them and I didn't even have a hook on. It was cut below the barb and they were just hanging onto it, or like, the little bit of hook that was out there was just kind of barely into their skin. And I was able to get those fish in there. I was like, you know what, how do you lose them in the tournament? But I think it's, it's a lot of pressure too. I mean, maybe you're not taking your time, or you're hurrying too much or whatever. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that can happen, but yeah, I think pressure definitely, the way they eat it and all that is definitely a big factor too.
I bellied one between 6 and 7 on a hitchhiker on a drop shot on the James River the first year we were up there. Hitchhiker. That's no hook. That's just a worm screwed into a hitchhiker and got it out in the tide and in the current and wouldn't let go and wouldn't let go and wouldn't let go. And I just brought it up next to the side of the boat and was like, that's a giant one. Reached down.
That's wild.
Just let go then.
It's crazy.
And then dumped him in the Derby. No hook. Not even a cut-off hook. No hook. Just plastic.
Nice.
So
it always seems to work like that for whatever reason. But yeah, if you could catch every single fish that bites your bait in the Bassmaster Opens in competition days, it'd definitely be a different outcome every year.
So my last thing that I think is important as an open angler to have success is you have to be extremes. You have to be incredibly linear and never deviate from the game plan, which puts you apart from the guys who are like, oh my gosh, it's not working out, and they start running. Or you have to be so far at the other end of the spectrum. I'd throw SoCup into this, like an A-Mart type deal. I'm not comparing him to A-Mart. I'm just saying A-Mart's another example of that. Someone who's has never been afraid to deviate from the norm, remember?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be committed to either style. You have to do extremes. You have to be, look at Keith Poche did this year. He won the overall. Extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and look at the guys who are doing it. They're either extremely linear and or they're one end of the spectrum. One end or the other. Would you agree with that in the opens with that many boats? You can't do the same thing as everyone else and expect different results.
Absolutely. Yep. And a lot of that comes from confidence too. I mean, it's confidence in your ability to go do different things and figure them out and figure out how to catch them different ways. And, it's, you're not just going to be able to go out and do it exactly what everybody else is doing and just blow the field away.
I think hella bass, we could have just saved this whole conversation. Number 1, old money. Number 2, single or blindly supportive spouse. Number 3, genetic resistance to skin cancer. Number 4, hungry to fish every waking minute. Number 5, good personality.
Those are some good ones. Hella bass.
Yeah, I want to see a Rich Lindgren ice fishing series.
Mm-hmm.
The man is not a fan of the ice.
No, he's not.
All right, Joel. Hopefully this hasn't come across as like ranting on my end either, but this is basically phone conversations. Like the same thing we talked about today is phone conversations that go on across the country at all different levels of fishing. Would you not agree?
Mm-hmm.
What's next on your plate? You just like hanging out before Christmas?
Yeah, just kind of hanging out. I mean, I've been busy. I was down in Kansas. I was doing a little bit of work, helping my buddy build a patio down there. And then I came home and been in Wisconsin the last week hunting, deer hunting. And now I'm back here in Minnesota and it's starting to snow right now. So I'm going to go shovel the driveway and the sidewalks when we get off here. And, I don't know. I got to kind of sit down and figure all that out. I'm going to maybe try to find some work here for this winter and just kind of rolling with it right now, trying to figure out what I want to do and wait for the ice to get off.
And then start guiding. Yeah, we had. Dang it! Who's the dude who won everything up in Minnesota? I had him on the show earlier.
Noah
this year.
Schultz.
Yeah, Noah.
Yep.
And he kind of went through the entire Minnesota tournament scene, which really seems to be taking. Maybe it's just because I'm paying more attention to it, but it seems like there's a lot of really cool opportunities up there for both individual and team, and bigger money events up in Minnesota now than ever before.
Yeah, there is. Honestly, I haven't fished a lot in Minnesota since I moved up here. I kind of been traveling nationally and just fishing some little local jackpot stuff, throughout the week when I have been home. But I actually fished with Sobe a few of the Tuesday nighters. He does a good YouTube series on his Tuesday night tournaments here in Minnesota throughout the summer. But I'm gonna explore a lot of those and fish a lot of stuff, around the state next year, local, regional stuff, and just gonna jump in where I can, and excited for it. I'm excited to fish around the house here and see what happens. Are you gonna be fishing the St. Jude again?
That's yeah, I got to talk to Bart. So the tournament, the Open before the St. Jude is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And the St. Jude is a Saturday, Sunday. And it's in Virginia, the Open. Well, I don't want to miss the St. Jude because it's the coolest tournament that I've ever fished. It's for the most legitimate, best cause ever. Have a chance to raise a lot of money through the Crappie Chronicles and BTL. So Bart's like, well, how's that going to work? And I was like, we'll figure it out. Because if I don't make the final day, I can drive 18 hours and make the meeting on Friday night. If I leave right after the weigh-in on Thursday, because it's Wednesday, Thursday. If I make the final day, then I might have to leave my truck and fly. But I said, listen, I'll strap a GoPro on and I will be at the St. Jude this year. So yes, I'm fishing it.
Awesome.
With zero practice, regardless. I will not have any practice whatsoever. So I'm relying solely on Adam Bartuzek's experience. Plus last year, dude, I caught like a 588 on a jerkbait. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Giant for the river. That's a big one.
I say this before I go. Sobe mentioned that. You're talking about Sam Sobe. That is a dude I have so much respect for Sam Sobe. He is taken. That's a dude who sees opportunity in everything. That Tuesday night, Tourney Tuesdays, right, is what it's called?
Tourney Tuesdays, yeah.
So, and I don't know how the YouTube algorithm works as far as monetizing it or anything. I think that's all he does is YouTube stuff and different. But he has taken. You guys have a crazy cool deal up there where you have so many lakes. It's almost like they should nickname that state like the land of 10,000 lakes because there's lakes everywhere. But it's still like a Tuesday nighter where it's at Lake Thunderbird for 15 weeks in a row and everyone fishes the same brush piles and you don't want Joe to see what you're doing because he'll be on your brush pile if he gets a better draw than you. They fish a different lake every Tuesday for like 10 or 12 Tuesdays. So you can give up the juice on that lake that Tuesday and do a awesome YouTube video on that lake and then go to the next one and you're not burning the next Tuesday's fish because it's on a different pond.
Yeah, dude, there are so many lakes up here. I mean, a lot of 300 acre to 1,000 acre lakes. They're everywhere, literally everywhere, and they all just have tons of fish in them. They're very fertile, and it's a pretty awesome place to live if you like to just go out on these smaller lakes and just go catch a ton of fish.
And then he turns every Tuesday night into the Bassmaster Classic on the video.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there living it with him, like, dude, you need to catch a limit to stay in the top 3, and what the weight is, and are you going to have it in, and the lucky banana shirt and everything. Phenomenal what Sobe does over there.
Yeah, and he's good on the camera. He knows how to. He's no good at cribbage, but he's really good at what he does on the camera.
Well, he said you suck at cribbage. He said you're not the best cribbage player.
Well, yeah, that's what he says. We'll strap a GoPro on the next game because I don't think he's ever beaten me, to be completely honest.
You guys want to play cribbage live on BTL, you're more than welcome. Next time you're together, find it. I'll fire up BTL. I'll have the studio at my house by then. I'm actually did some painting last night on the new studio at the crib, so I'll put it full screen, and you guys can have a live cribbage game, and I'll I don't even know what is that called? Announce cribbage? That's a northern thing, Joel.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to let you go. I really enjoyed the heck out of that. It's been long overdue to have you on BTL, so thank you for the time. Much appreciated.
Man. Appreciate you having me on, and if anybody's got any questions or anything like that, always feel free to reach out to me. Shoot me an email or shoot me a message. I'm always willing to answer questions, help anybody out that has any questions on anything or whatever else. I had a good time, and I'll definitely get my ducks in a row, and I'll be back and chasing it again here sooner than later.
Good stuff. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was Joel Willert in a very interesting BTL. Like I said, I wasn't sure where that was going to go, but that's the truth. That's the real stuff. And Joel's really good, and he should have a job in the industry, freelance, and be fishing the opens this year. Just saying. All right. Tomorrow, another guy who's hustled and grinded and made his way to the top, and he's back at the opens and is figuring stuff out as he goes. Become pretty good friends with this guy over the last couple years, and that is Andrew Upshaw. He's got some big announcements, some big things that he's doing next year that are outside the box to supplement fishing the opens. The guy wins a Toyota Series, an FLW Tour event, jumps in the opens, was rooming half of the house. Me and Andrew are the ones that are left. Hallman and Sokup are on to the Elite Series. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the TV side of things. TV is still very viable. One of the things that I realized filming a show, and I said, dude, you got to come on and talk about this. And then at that same time, he had some stuff going on with his hands, health-wise, injury-wise. So we're going to get Andrew on to talk about that tomorrow on BTL. And then, like I said, big announcement on Thursday. As far as I think I've only met Frank Scalish in person one time, and it was in passing, like with Mark Jeffries. When very first time, one of the times I think we went to he was off of the Elite Series by then, but we were up north, and him and Mark went and got a beer together, and he's like, I was just an intern at the time. Maybe some in-studio details about the man, Frank Scalish. So big shout out, big thanks to Joel Willert. Remember, don't forget, if you haven't signed up for it, bestontour.net. Sign up for it, weekly newsletter. Win the clothing prize pack. Everyone wins on that. This has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. We'll talk to everyone tomorrow. Andrew Upshaw on a Wednesday. See everyone later.